Well, looky there. We are live streaming again. It's been a while. We'll wait for a couple people to jump on here before we start chatting. In the meantime, we're going to get into one of my favorite snacks, and that is peanut butter filled pretzels. And what I really like about this bag is the Velcro close. Very easy to close. Doesn't have those two plastic lines you gotta line up on like most bags or whatever, but it's got a nice fat Velcro strip, so it's really easy to close. So this past week we've been going out to the garden most evenings. We haven't made it out there every night, but we've been pretty good about getting out there to help weed. And we would help water, but my dad likes watering, or he's kind of taken over responsibility for that. So most of the time he's already got the garden watered before we get out there, because by the time we get off work and we get dinner and everything situated, you know, it's usually 7:30, 8 o'clock at night before we get out there. So he's been helping me a bunch, maintaining stuff, and then we spend probably about an hour or so, depending on the evening. Like tonight we mowed grass, so we were out there longer. We were out there probably about 2 hours altogether, just kind of putzing around. And so anyway, one of the things that we that's starting to come in is our sugar snap peas, and we've got two different varieties that we're growing this year. We've got the Lincoln peas, the green ones, and these aren't very fat. They really need to be, I like them to be fatter than this, so you actually have like a meal. See if we can find one that's a decent size. That one's decent. Almost, it's over a 1/4 inch thick, approaching a 1/2 inch. That's about the size. And there's probably about 8 peas in these, so we'll open this up real quick, see how many are in there. This one we're a little short, got 7 peas. But usually this is one of the first crops that we're harvesting out of the garden, and usually it's about 3 weeks earlier. We're usually getting these the beginning of June. This year it's like end of June. But they're really good. We're also growing the Magnolia Tendril Pea. It's kind of a neat little plant, purple flowers and stuff. You know, obviously purple seed pod. But the when you cook it, supposedly they go back to green. And who knows, maybe this is a cross because it's a little bit green there, but let's open it up and see. Well, hey Frank, you finally made it, man. I'm streaming for you tonight. Tom said he might hop on too. He's been at Kings Island. Oh, he's kind of tired. Ooh, look at this. Those are some nice peas right there. They might be a little too hard. Let's see. No, actually that's pretty good. Yeah. The Magnolia peas, at least some of the ones I've had, they seem to be a little creamier than a Lincoln pea, but the Lincoln pea seems to be sweeter than the Magnolia one, but they're really cool to grow. Yeah, these are the Magnolia peas. And then these are the Lincoln peas. The kids kind of picked them. I would have let this go maybe another day. I'm gonna try to save some of these for my wife because she loves fresh peas. So I'm gonna restrain myself and go back to my other go-to snack. Peanut butter pretzels. Oh, you'll get a kick out of this. So we were going through an old box. We were trying to find pictures for my daughter's graduation. We graduated her last weekend. Had a party finally and all that. We actually had a party. How does the pod taste? Baby, you want to try the pod? No? Let's try the pod. Make sure there's no bird poop on it. Looks clean to me. That pod is surprisingly sweet. It is, in fact, a lot sweeter than the peas that I ate. That is really good. So how's your week been? It's been a little while since we've chatted. Did you get the RV up and running? Yeah, I should try the pod on the green one and see if it's just as sweet as the Magnolia ones. What? Oh my god. 10K to fix the RV? That's crazy, man. What does it need? Like a new motor? This pod's good too. Is there a possibility, like, I know that a lot of states have lemon laws, where if you buy something and it basically craps out on you in like, less than a month or something, you can return it, get a full refund. Like basically you have legal recourse, to make it right. Is that something that's a possibility with this, or have you maybe thought about doing that? Oh, that stinks, man. Well, I guess worst case scenario, if you do spend the 10K, like get a loan or something, or something works out along that line, and you do get it fixed, then that's a repair you're not gonna have to do again, and it should last a while, but it kind of makes you wonder, like, what else would you have to get fixed on that, if you were to replace that. Frank. I went dark. Am I still here? Because I can see the comments coming up. Can you still see me? No more video. I wonder if it's your reception, because I'm on a pretty good Wi-Fi. I'm on 5G here on my router. I got a dual band router at the house. I think I'm on the 5G band. Well, hey there. Can you see me? Frank said I went dark. Oh, cool. Yeah, good. Well, yeah, I'm down in the basement. Oh, cool. I'm down in the basement. This is where the kids do school. So we got all kinds of books and stuff down here, and their little school desk or tables where they do work and stuff like that. We I was telling Frank this past weekend we graduated my daughter Emma finally. We had to reschedule our party like 3 times. It was gonna be a drive-by type deal because I guess one of our coworkers back in May, towards the end of May, when I'd taken a week of vacation, and the end of my vacation, oh my goodness. That's crazy. I wonder if you, like, some kind of worm or something got them. Like a grub. Kind of knock on the table here. I've only lost one plant, a Tigger plant that wasn't doing real well anyway. Yeah, it's got to be something. Wonder if you dig it up and do a little autopsy on that little plant necropsy. Well, hey, that's the crop you want to grow, right? Who cares about the tomatoes and the cucumbers as long as you got tobacco? That's well, in worst case scenario, if you lose all the tomatoes, I'll give you tomatoes. Because I've got about, and counting my sister's plants, we got over 60 plants out there. I don't know, man. Typically what we do is we harvest what we want until we get sick of them. And then my dad, um, he'll take them down to the food pantry, or like he always finds people to give them away to. He usually, I guess his church has got like a food pantry or food ministry or whatever, so he's able to donate stuff. I remember last year he run it, and he also he goes to the senior center where he's got a lot of, well, at least he did. Well, who knows? Maybe I'll have some cucumbers for you too, Tom, because I got about 6 or 8 plants, and they're all, so far so good. They're starting to sprawl a little bit, and I'm seeing some baby cucumbers, so we'll kind of see. If I get extra of those, I'll give them to you too. Yeah. So this food pantry, I guess, he gives food there, but then he also goes to the senior center in town. And actually, he eats lunch there almost every day because I think they only charge like $2.50 for like a hot meal, and it's like well balanced. And he probably couldn't buy groceries that cheap to get what he's getting, so he'll go down there for lunch and pick up a to-go lunch or to-go dinner, whatever it is, and whatnot. But I guess he was telling me, I think it was last year. So we planted all these turnips. I mean, it was just crazy. We were kind of wild. We planted way too many, so we had just all these turnips. And he was talking to some guy at senior center about it, and the guy's like, he's like, "Yeah, I'll take some turnips." And so Dad said, "Okay." Well, he comes back and gave the guy like 2 bushels of turnips. And the guy was mad. Like, he's like, "I wanted turnips. I didn't want 2 bushels of turnips, just a few, not." And he had put them in a U-Haul box, so, like the guy didn't know exactly what he was getting. Dad just kind of gave him the box. So funny. Yeah. So we had some fun. He mowed down the turnip patch this year. We let some. We got an area by the rhubarb. We let go to seed because they're usually the first flowers in the spring. When spaghetti squash is ripe? That's a good question. I think when yeah, I guess when it's deep yellow or tan. The ones I grow are like tan, and they'll grow on to like a tan color, and they're about yay big, about 10 inches to 8 inches long is usually when we'll pick them. If it's turning yellow, hopefully it's not rotting, right? Yeah. Actually, 5.4 inches long. Yeah, they grow pretty good. We did them one year, and they seem to do okay. One pest we haven't seen yet is a squash bug or the cucumber beetle. I've not seen either one of those, but I tell you, every night the potato beetle's been what? Oh wow, that's awesome. The potato beetles, man, we've had to be on them. Out there picking every night. Dad started washing them off the plant. And if they're young, sometimes that's enough. It will kill them because they just can't really crawl real well. But we're still having to pick and squash. I mean, it's just, I've been blown away at how prolific they are. Yeah, after not watering for a week and a half, but you must have had, maybe you had, there was water in like the reservoir or something. Yeah. I've got actually two more self-watering containers I got to plant this weekend. I want to start some more lettuce to get things going. We're going over to my dad's house this weekend. He's having everybody, the family, out for fireworks because the city's not. At least I don't think the city's doing fireworks this year. Tom likes fireworks. Yeah, man, I don't blame you. I mean, because that's like it's almost like Jack and a Beanstalk, right? I mean, trading in the cow, so to speak, for some beans. I know you were talking about. I guess your friend was that you've been living with is going to be moving soon. I bet Holiday World's got a cool fireworks display. Because I think one of the holidays there is 4th of July, right? Tom might know somebody that's got a Chevy 454. Actually, you know what we should do? Maybe Tom and I can take a road trip out to Colorado. And he could help put a 454 into that RV. We just have to find the motor. Yeah, I don't know if you were on here, Tom, but the Frank bought this RV and it crapped out on him. The engine seized. You don't do RVs? You don't do BMWs? So I guess what's the issue with the RVs? Is it just because they weigh so much? Yeah, I probably wouldn't want to be underneath. Oh my goodness. So what are you thinking about doing, on a serious note, Frank, what are you thinking about doing then if the RV is not, it's not like there's not a lot of people that have just like $10,000 laying around. Now Tom he's got a Charles Schwab brokerage account. He's been socking money away into it for a couple years now. What about scrapping it? Like, what would it cost to scrap it? Or like, how much money you think you could get scrapping it? Man. What do you think, Tom? How much you think he can get for that RV if he took it to a scrap yard? Hmm. I wonder if there's any other options. If you're 4,000 into it and it's going to cost 10,000 to fix it, I mean the risk there is that you're deeper down the rabbit hole, and then something else breaks on it. because of the age or whatever, and then you're kind of in the same situation again, or you can cut your losses, right, and try to scrap it out or even sell it. Maybe someone would be able to be willing to buy it for 1,000, but if not, you try to scrap it out for $1,000, and then you're only three grand into that hole, which is more manageable than say 14 grand. You know, maybe in the meantime, you mentioned some people at church had offered a room or a place there. Well, hey, Mimsy, thanks for stopping by. You can hang out with us if you want. We're just chatting. And it's not, we talk, we got wholesome talk here. It's not unwholesome talk. We're not cussing or talking about bad stuff. Oh. Frank. Well, Mimsy, we talked about a few things. I harvested peas. They're really good. These pods aren't as edible. The Magnolia Tendril Peas. This is a good pea. It's not peas are good, but the pods are even sweeter and edible. Whereas the other one, I ultimately had to spit it out because it was like eating shoe leather. So yeah, you could toy around with the idea of converting it into an electric vehicle and whatnot. You know, again, you're gonna be spending money to do that and keep up with the maintenance and stuff. Or like I said, the other option is to yeah, and there's an option. Maybe get a second opinion on it. Maybe it's not locked up. So Mimsy, I don't know if I've been by your channel. What kind of stuff do you grow? You know, Tom, I wonder if Frank could FaceTime you and he could show you Like if there's a way you could diagnose it like online, like virtually. So I remember you kind of did that with my I think it was alternator. There one time I called you and we were FaceTiming and it's kind of showing you what was going on. You're able to see it. So Mimsy, you're in Mississippi, huh? Do you have a do you have property like, or do you live in the city or? Yeah, tomatillos. That reminds me. One year we grew tomatillos, and I think they're a. I think they're a trap crop for cucumber beetles. But the one year we grew them, we actually grew them next to the cucumbers, and we had a lot of cucumber beetles that came in. Poor Boy Homestead. I'm gonna check that out. I'm gonna check out your channel too, Mimsy. So we were going through box of stuff last weekend trying to find the CDs that had all these old baby pictures and things on it. And look what we found. Well, that's cool. 7 acres. That's enough room to play on. Is it mostly wooded or is it? This is a genuine flip. This is where my YouTube hobby began right here. My brother-in-law actually won this. Yeah, I think it still works. It's got an HDMI output. And I think it's the, I think it just slides apart to get to the batteries. I'm trying to remember, yeah, that's what happens. So that cover comes off. It looks like it takes 2 AA's. So try that out. But I remember it took forever to upload videos and stuff like that. But This is a cool little camera. I didn't watch all that video. I'm about to check out the rest of it. I was on lunch break or something when I saw you post that. Was that the one where you were talking about upgrading tools too? You went on a rant about Snap-on. Yeah, so I'm gonna get some double A's for this camera and see if it still works. Hopefully it does. That'd be kind of cool if it does. Other thing I got recently, I'll show you. Yeah. Got me a carbide sharpener, tool sharpener. And it works pretty well. I sharpen my Corona micro printers. Yeah, it's pretty cool tonight. We got home from the garden after mowing. Well, we mowed grass and then checked things over. But anyway, I got home and we don't know the neighbors around here like super well because, and I don't know how it is in your guys' neighborhoods, but you know, anymore, it's just hard to get to know people. You know, the C word. Corona, yeah. But it's hard to get to know people anymore. I don't know if you guys can relate to that. You know, it's hard to get to know neighbors. It's hard to earn people's trust. You know, because people are, at least around here, kind of offstandish, keep to themselves. You don't. I don't know. Yeah, maybe part of it's Corona, but anyway, it's been a challenge. We lived here 5 years now, and kind of getting to know the neighbors. But it was really cool. The neighbors directly across the street, we hadn't hardly ever seen them because one, the lady that owned the house, she was like in her 80s and kind of housebound. So we never saw her come outside or anything like that. But like in the winters, like if there was snow pretty deep, I've got snow blower. I'd clear off sidewalks and then go up and do the driveway, or driveways of the neighbors that were closest to us and stuff, and the one across the street. Anyway, we had my daughter's party this past weekend. I guess he saw what was going on, and apparently the lady across the street passed away, and her son's been living in the house there. But he yelled out to me when we got home. It was around 9 o'clock or whatever. Wanted me to come over. I was like, okay. So went over there, but he got to chatting. He's like, hey, I saw the party that you guys were having last weekend. I was going to come over, but I just had neck surgery and this, that, and the other. But I want to give your daughter something. And he whips out his wallet and pulls out a 20, which that was cool. I mean, he didn't even know us and gave me $20 for my daughter. So anyway, we ended up striking a conversation, and it was kind of cool, kind of small world. He knows my father-in-law. Actually used to tow vehicles to him and stuff like that. And so we chatted for about, I don't know, 45 minutes or so, and so kind of know him. And Tom got a referral out of that because he's having problems with his BMW, and I referred him to Tom. So we'll see how that works out. So anyway, it's been, just kind of difficult to get to know people. Yeah, there's kind of like that old saying, I say it to the kids a lot, is if you want friends, you got to be friendly. But there's a lot of truth in that, People can usually, are pretty perceptive and can kind of tell, I try and think what this study, usually when you meet a person for the first time within like, I don't know, real short amount of time, you kind of make a determination whether or not you can trust them or, kind of gauge kind of what person they are. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you got some useful skills for sure. Oh, and the other thing that was cool, so we got some other neighbors. We live in kind of an eclectic neighborhood because it's just a lot, it's really diverse. Oh, shoot. But, we got traditional, conservative folks, we've got liberal folks, we've got Indians, people of Indian descent. We've got we got some Chinese that live a street over that we usually see. We've got Muslims. We've got African American. I mean, there's a lot of kind of diversity around the block and stuff like that. And what was really cool was Indian as in India. Yeah, I should have clarified that. But it was really cool. The neighbors in the cul-de-sac, they saw again the graduation party and all that. And again, I've maybe spoken to them 3 times, maybe 4 in the last 5 years, because we just kind of coming and going and whatever, and they're kind of on a different schedule, but really cool. I think his name's Chad, but they came down and gave my daughter a card, and we were able to strike up some conversation. So we might end up having them over for dinner at some point, which would be kind of cool. Get to know them a little bit more. So yeah, no, I think some of it is like, people kind of getting to see that it's safe, like that, we're not crazies or like, weirdos, but just like normal people, you know. At least I think we're pretty normal. That reminds me. So there's this new show. I think it's relatively new. It's um, it's about this Yukon animal veterinarian, Michelle something Yukon vet. But my wife, she loves that show. She's been like binge watching it, and we're in Ohio. Tom and I live in Ohio, and Frank's in Colorado. Born in Maine. When I think of Maine is famous for blueberries, aren't they? Or cheesecake? Or maybe it's lobster. Blueberries. We're going to be picking blueberries soon. There's a farm over in, is it West Liberty, Ohio? Anyway, blueberry season's in July. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, two family homesteads actually reached out to me. It's been a while back, but I think they wanted me to come on their channel for like a guest deal because they're in Ohio. I'm trying to think what part of Ohio, but not very far away. I think only about an hour away from me. You coming to say goodnight? Mm-hmm. Aww.
Hi, Dada.
Good night, honey.
Love you, Daddy.
Love you, honey. It is like 11:30. It's getting late. I'm a bad parent. I'm letting my kids stay up late. I think my son's still playing Nintendo. Hey, bud, you still down here?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still down here. Hey, it's about bedtime. Yeah. Now my older kid, so she's still a softie, so she, all that. But the older girls, my teenagers, like, I don't get that very much from them anymore. They're oh, that's cool. Yeah, they're good folks. I should pop in on their channel more often. I'll pop in every once in a while. I'll stay, maybe 5 minutes or something, and then bop off. But that's cool. I may have actually seen that once. You mentioned it's a pink race car, or Yeah, Pink Panther Race. I may have seen that once, one time. So you guys go to like drag strips and stuff with that? Is that the deal? Well, it's cool that you're able to take care of. You take care of your mother. You know, my sister, she just joined up with Comfort Keeper. She's an LPN, so she's going to be working, I think, 12-hour shifts from like 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. You know, being a caretaker. That's awesome. So I have to ask, since you are in the nursing field, what do you think of all the COVID-19 stuff? How has it been down in Mississippi? I know here in Ohio, I think in Dayton, Ohio, they passed, I don't know if it's a city ordinance or law where they're requiring face coverings in all like public spaces and stuff. Wow. I'll have to check that out. I know there's some of us here like think that, that COVID had actually been around like back in December. You know, like he was actually here earlier than what they say, because I know people that, end up, getting sick, and they never get sick. Guy at work that came down with something. Um, I know for myself, I had like a bacterial respiratory infection initially, and then like I don't know, a couple weeks later, came down with something else that was like really bad. What? Oh man. So what happened at work, Frank? Hey Samuel. Hey bud.
What?
You need to brush your teeth. It's time for bed, bud.
I'm trying to figure out how to.
Oh my gosh. So did it lock up on you or something, or blow up? So you were riding on a rim for a little while, huh? I bet the I bet the people behind you. Yeah. That could have been a lot worse. Oh, speaking of doors, I gotta show you this. Let's go for a little walk. So I'm gonna flip this around. You're gonna be proud of me, Frank. I put in a new garage door opener. And it's Wi-Fi enabled, so I can control it with my smartphone. That's kind of cool. And it's super quiet too. There it is. Yeah, the tricky part, I was able to use, I need to lube the door. Yeah, I probably do. I was able to use some of the existing hardware from the old one. I had to drill out the hole up there to get that pin to fit in right though, just so it doesn't wear out the opening, but it went up okay. And then I was able to reuse some of the wiring, like basically just spliced into the existing one. Well, hey Mimsy, I appreciate you stopping by the channel. You have to stop by again. Now I'll have to go by and check out your channel too. But so I had to wire in the control. So that's a new wire setup. But I was able to use. Let's see if I can. I was able to reuse the wires there and splice in the new sensors. So yeah, cool stuff. We got that because that was actually my birthday present. Wasn't really planning on that, but the old garage door opener just started basically just kind of crapped out on us and was going crazy. Like it would go up and down, like the sensors, like it was old. It was probably, it'd probably been here since the house been here, but I got it on sale. I think Lowe's had it on sale for $275. So yeah, you're right. It wasn't cheap. But it's like, well, I mean, that thing will probably last, hopefully, a really long time. Hopefully, I won't have to replace it again. And it's a lot quieter than the old one was a chain driven. Yeah, the door is the next thing that needs to be replaced. It's a wooden door, and the bottom is starting to rot out a little bit, or it's got some signs of water damage. So I'm probably gonna have to replace it at some point, or at the very least replace the lower section, like repair it. Those are the kind of repairs and things like you just kind of put off. You don't do them until you have to. It's kind of like replacing a roof on a house. That's another one that, until the house is pretty much almost leaking. Wow. Yeah, so I don't know. It's going to be at some point, but main thing is it opens and closes now. It's quiet. So hopefully it'll work out really well. It's not wired in with the security. This house actually has a security system that is not like, we're not really doing anything with it. So the garage door was spliced into it originally, and this one isn't wired in on that, but wow. Yeah, I have to check it out. We looked at them a little bit at Lowe's. I think, yeah, that's where we'll get the opener. So we were looking at the garage doors because they had a set up there, but they looked a little pricey. I think it was like $800 for a single. So $1,500, that makes sense, for a double door. That's that wide and all of that. So, but, well, my zip code, it's 45503. Yeah, I remember one time my dad got a garage door from Lowe's, and it was just like paper thin aluminum, like really easy actually we ended up damaging it, installing it. I think bent one of the panels on it or something. I don't know. I forget. It was a long time ago. But well, it's almost midnight, so I should probably call it a night and make sure the kids are actually like going to sleep, so they don't fritter away tomorrow morning, just kind of lazing around. Cause they'll sleep in till 10 o'clock if I let them. We try to get them going and doing stuff. So, but we'll have to chat again. Jump online. Maybe I'm gonna play around with the flip. See if it still works. Maybe because I mean this thing is probably, I'd say 7 years old. And the computer I had back there was a lot slower than the one I got now. So who knows, maybe it's gonna be a little easier to use this thing. Yeah, I appreciate the website link, Frank. I'll have to check those out. So, the other thing I'll share real quick, kind of on a spiritual note, it's been really cool. I've been going through a couple of the epistles and stuff like that. I was in Titus for a little while. And that was kind of cool. But just one of the things that's been kind of, I was actually talking to a coworker a little bit about this today, but one thing that's kind of been, reinforced here lately is the importance of like being in the Word, in the Scriptures, like studying them, kind of meditating on them, just kind of getting before them and just kind of reading and then allowing them to kind of speak, or allowing God to kind of apply them to your situation, or show you things that you need to know about yourself or situation. Or sometimes he'll give you a principle. At least my experience, he'll kind of show you something, draw something out, call your attention to it, and then the object lesson comes later. It's like he plants a seed, like, hey, make a note of that, keep that in mind, and then he adds on to that oftentimes. So lately, I've been talking with another friend about, and I think we talked a little bit about this at work today, judging people. And what's the difference? Because like Jesus says, basically not to judge lest you be judged. The measure you use will be the same measure that's used against you, type deal. What he's talking about there is like condemnation, right? Condemning someone and making a sweeping, you know, judgment call like that. It's like got a negative connotation. But here lately, been coming across stuff like I said, reading through First Corinthians today, and chapter 2, I believe. Paul's talking about the difference between earthly wisdom and spiritual wisdom. Is just talking about like spiritual things are spiritually discerned. It's foolishness to the outsider, the unregenerate or those that don't know the Lord. But those that do, it's wisdom and all that spiritually discerned. But then he goes into talking about this idea of judgment and judging things. That he who is spiritual judges all things. Yeah, yeah. And it's just been kind of interesting because the translation for that word means to question or to ask. Yeah. Tom. So it's an interesting phrase there, but it basically, the idea is that you're you're assessing things, you're testing the spirit, so to speak. There's a passage in First John that talks about that. That that he says, test the spirits to see whether they're from God or not, because not every spirit is from God. Like, in other words, in the context would be like in a religious setting, or if somebody's trying to give you some counsel and saying, thus saith the Lord, or whatnot, when we're exhorted or encouraged to test that. We'll test. What do you mean test it? Like, test it against what? Well, test it against the whole counsel of God. First off, does it line up with the scriptures, or is it kind of taking something out of context and manipulating truth? Because the most effective lie is the one that's closest to the truth, right? And I guess you think back like Matthew chapter 4, like when Jesus was being tempted in the wilderness. One of the things that Satan did was he used the word. He basically took scripture out of context and talked about, if you're the son of God, throw your stuff down, from here, because it says, he'll command his angels concerning you, so that you don't dash your foot against a stone. Yeah, so there's wisdom in that. So you're testing the spirits, or you're kind of judging things. You're assessing things that you're hearing, counsel you're receiving, everything against the word, against the whole counsel of God. To kind of direct your steps or guide you or help. And he even talks about in Romans 12 about, presenting ourselves as kind of living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God this is your spiritual act of worship, right? Do not be conformed any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you might test and approve, His will, or God's will, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. It's Romans 12, but the idea that we can, this idea of testing and approving and asking, inquiring. I guess there's a passage in the epistles when Paul commends the Bereans, because when he came to the city, I forget which one it was, but he was preaching to them, they actually went back to the scriptures to see if the things that Paul was talking about were true, right? They questioned what he was saying. They were trying to judge it in a sense of assessing it, whether it was truth or not. And so that's what it's talking about there in 1 Corinthians, about, he who is spiritual judges all things, right? We're making qualitative assessments, assessing a situation, reading people, comparing spiritual things with spiritual things, to get to the truth, or to make sure we're staying on the right path. And it's so important too, especially depending on what kind of church and you're going to and all that. And there's so many people that get taken advantage of. They get involved with, a group of people, or, and it turns out that the pastor's a huckster, or, is basically fleecing a flock or taking advantage. And there was actually one here in town that was kind of that way. And it was kind of a flash in the pan. When you really paid attention to what they were saying, they weren't saying anything. Like it was just a bunch of words. And it was just more kind of yelling and screaming and all that. Ultimately, I guess what ended up happening was, from what I understand, the whole place kind of folded because the pastor ended up selling the sound equipment and everything out from under congregation. I don't know, it just bad situation. So anyway, so that's kind of where I've been kind of hanging out lately in the scriptures and kind of studying that and thinking about that whole concept of, judging people versus judging a situation, or assessing a situation, or just questioning, asking, comparing things to the word. So that's why it's so important too to read it for yourself and really take the time to study it out, so that when you do hear something that's not quite right, or sounds too good to be true, or maybe it's being taken out of context, you can kind of make that determination and not be deceived and kind of go off on a tangent, and then ultimately be disappointed or taken advantage of, or deceived, and I think now more than ever, it's so important, to look into things for yourself, because there's just so much, noise, in terms of the media and whatnot. In fact, that's one of the strategies is I think in some respects people have information fatigue. There's so much information and news and things coming at people. It just becomes, people get complacent, and yeah. So anyway, food for thought. that's kind of the last of it there, and it is almost midnight, so we should probably shut her down for tonight. But maybe we'll jump on later this holiday weekend and continue the conversation and go from there. So yeah, when it comes to trade, yeah, this RV it's running like a top. Oh man. You know, though, I guess the promise there to hold on to is like, what is it saying? Romans 8:28 it talks about how in all things God works for the good of those who love him who've been called according to his purpose, right? So kind of to your point earlier, yeah, though this is a setback, and definitely not how you want it to work out, maybe there's a silver lining somewhere in that, maybe something's gonna come out of that. So anyway, all right. Well, hey, well, you guys have a good holiday weekend, and maybe I'll catch you later this weekend. We'll see you guys.